You can't manage money, sweetie. Look at the hand the doctor broke. My mother said that 2 minutes after she took my first paycheck, $1,500, straight out of my fingers, exactly the way she'd been taking my birth injury settlement payments since I turned 18. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't tell her my new bank card was already in my pocket or that her name had been off my accounts for 11 weeks. Or that on the next Sunday at her own kitchen table in front of her own mother, I'd have a sealed bank envelope on my knee, waiting for the line she'd cross before she could stop herself. Inside the envelope was every dollar she thought she still controlled, and it had my name on it. If this story is hitting you, take a second to like and subscribe. These stories only travel because viewers like you share them. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. I'm Lottie, 22, and this is the story of the Sunday my mother dropped a card she didn't know was mine. Let's go back 4 months to a coffee shop and a woman who'd been waiting 17 years to tell me the truth. The first time I walked into Brewman's Coffee on 8th Street, I didn't know I was about to start a war. It was a Saturday morning in July. Maureen had texted me on Wednesday, 4 days after she officially retired from her physical therapy clinic. 3 sentences. Coffee. Saturday at 10. Brewman's on 8th Street. Just us. I'd known Maureen since I was 5 years old. 17 years of stretching tight calves. 17 years of balancing on foam pads. 17 years of walking heel to toe across her wooden floor while she counted out loud and watched my hips with the kind of attention my mother had never paid me. So when a card arrived in the mail 2 weeks before that text, "Thank you, Lottie, for 17 years of your trust," I'd been ready to cry. I had been less ready for the line in her handwriting on the back. Coffee, Saturday, July 12th. Just you and me. I came in early. I always come in early to new places. When your right leg sometimes refuses to do exactly what your brain asks, you give yourself extra time. I sat in the back booth, facing the door, and I waited. The cane I'd brought was leaning out of sight against the wall. Bad weather morning. The ankle was aching from the rain. You should know what I looked like that morning. 22 years old, pale, light brown hair pulled back, a sweater 2 sizes too big because I'd bought it secondhand, a cup of black coffee I could not afford to refill because my entire week's allowance was $35. My mother had handed me the cash on Monday, the same way she'd handed me $5 a day since I could remember. $5 and a kiss on the forehead. Drive carefully, sweetie. Don't spend it all at once. That was the architecture of my life. My mother, Rhonda, 52 office manager at Pinewood Auto Glass, had been the trustee of every dollar I had ever owned. My father, Wendell, had left when I was 11. The divorce had been fast and quiet, and he had taken a 1-bedroom on the South Side. He remarried 4 years ago. My stepmother, Karen, taught 2nd grade. She made banana bread that tasted like a hug. My older half-sister, Bridget, my mother's daughter from her first marriage, lived 90 minutes away, working night shifts as a nurse at a regional hospital. She had not been to a Sunday dinner in 8 months. I missed her more than I knew how to say. And there was the money. $2.2 million. I had known the number since I was 9. My mother liked to remind me, the way some mothers remind their daughters how lucky they are. The settlement came from a small obstetric clinic and the delivering hospital after a tired doctor took too long with a difficult breech. My oxygen had run out before my lungs ever filled. Spastic diplegia, mild, bilateral. My legs would always know what my brain had not been able to send them quickly enough on May 7th, 2003. The money had been split, my mother always said. 1.5 million in a trust for me, 700,000 in present value, structured to pay out as 180 monthly deposits of $4,200, starting on my 18th birthday. I had been hearing about that money my whole life. What I had never been allowed to see was a single statement. The door chimed. Maureen walked in, navy raincoat. That same low ponytail she'd worn since I was 9. She crossed to my booth, set down a manila folder face down, slid into the seat across from me, and folded her hands. "Lottie," she said, just my name, the way she'd said it for 17 years. She let the silence breathe. Then she said, "There's something I should have told you when you turned 18. To understand what Maureen meant, you have to understand what my mother had done with my whole childhood. Let me start at 8. For my 8th birthday, I asked for orthotic inserts, real ones, the pediatric ones, with the little blue gel pads. Maureen had been telling my mother for 2 years that I needed them. The pair we had, handed down from a neighbor's older boy, were cracked at the heel and worn smooth at the arch. I had been limping more by then. My mother bought a sheet cake and 17 balloons. When I asked again about the inserts, after the candles, she sat me on her lap and said the words I would hear in some shape every year of my life. "There isn't a lot of money left, sweetie. We had to use most of it on the doctors. You're lucky we still have anything. You get $5 a day, and that's a fortune. Most kids don't get that. Do you know how lucky you are?" I did not get the inserts. We had a sheet cake. At 12, my school sent home a permission slip for a Saturday adaptive sports program. 8 weeks, $200 a child. There was a sliding scale assistance box at the bottom. There was a partial assistance box. There was a third box that said I am able to pay in full. My mother took the slip from my backpack. She read it at the kitchen table while I ate cheese crackers. She uncapped the blue pen she kept by the phone. She did not check assistance. She did not check partial. She did not check the third box. She crumpled the slip into a ball. She dropped it in the trash. She said, "Sweetie, you don't need other kids feeling sorry for you on a Saturday. We have enough on our plate. $5 a day. Most kids don't even get that." She made me a grilled cheese. She kissed me on the forehead. I did not ask about adaptive sports again. At 13, my mother came home from her hairdresser's with a new fur trim coat. Not real fur, the expensive synthetic kind. I asked her if she'd gotten a raise at Pinewood Auto Glass. She said, "No, sweetie, this was on sale." She kissed my forehead and went upstairs to hang it in her closet. I sat on the kitchen stool and ate a granola bar from a 4-pack that had to last me the week. At 14, when my class went on a 4-day trip to Washington, my mother told me I couldn't go. Not because of money, because of my hand. "Your right hand can't carry a suitcase, sweetie. You'll embarrass yourself." I went to school the morning the bus left and sat in the library while my friends were 300 miles away. The librarian, Mrs. Beach, gave me half her sandwich. She didn't ask why I was crying. At 16, my father, Wendell, quietly, slowly, saved enough out of his warehouse shifts to buy me a refurbished laptop. He drove it over on a Saturday. He set it on the kitchen table, told me it was for college applications, and he kissed the top of my head before he left. My mother walked into the kitchen at 8:37 that night. She picked up the laptop. She carried it out of the front door. She set it on the front step. Then she walked across the porch and dropped it onto the driveway. Hard. Twice. She told my father on the phone that the screen had cracked on its own. Bad refurbish. Sorry, Wendell. I went to my room. I did not cry. I had already learned not to cry. I had learned that crying made my mother smile, like she'd proved something to herself. At 17, Maureen looked up from my left calf mid-stretch and asked me, for the first time in 12 years of appointments, a different kind of question. Lottie, sweetheart, does anyone else ever drive you here? I told her no. My mother says only she knows what I need. Maureen did not answer for a long time. She just kept stretching. When she was done, she wrote something in her green spiral notebook. I asked her what. She said, a note for myself. Don't worry about it. At 18, on my birthday, May 7th, 2021, my mother put a manila folder on the kitchen table at breakfast and said, "You are an adult now, sweetie. Time to be a partner in your own money." She showed me a form, joint account, just to be safe while you're learning. We'll do this together. You sign here and here and here. I signed. 3 days later, the first deposit hit. $4,200. The structured settlement payment, the first of 180 monthly deposits that were supposed to fund my care until I was 33. I never saw a balance. My mother handed me $5 and a kiss on the forehead. Drive carefully, sweetie. Don't spend it all at once. The next month I asked her if I could have a debit card too, so I could pump gas without bothering her. She smiled. When you've earned it, sweetie, I did not earn it for 4 more years. I want you to picture what those 4 years between 18 and 22 actually looked like, because the worst part of being controlled by someone who loves you is how normal it gets. I enrolled in community college in the fall of 2021. My mother chose the school, 28 minutes from the house, close enough that I could come home for lunch, close enough that she could drive me on bad days, close enough that I never spent a night anywhere she could not picture in her head. I asked that first August if I could apply for a student loan, to buy my own books, to pay for parking. She laughed. "Sweetie, you don't need a loan. We have your trust. I'm taking care of it. You just focus on your classes." I took out no loans. I bought no books. I borrowed from the library, and I returned everything on time, and I walked from the lot at the far edge of campus to my building on every cold, ankle-aching morning, because the closer lot was $12 more a semester, and my mother said I should be grateful for what I had. My friends got jobs. They went away on summer weekends. Some moved out. I stayed home. My $5 a day went to coffee on Wednesdays and gas in my mother's old Civic and not much else. I packed lunches she made me from leftovers. I sat on the porch on Friday nights and read. In June 2021, my father married Karen. The wedding was small. My mother told me I should not go. It would be disloyal. Wendell hadn't loved us enough to stay, and now he wanted me to bless his new family. I went anyway. Karen wore a tea-length dress with cream lace. After the ceremony, she pulled me aside, took both my hands, and said, "Lottie, I'm not trying to be your mother. I'm only trying to be in the room with you. That is all I'm asking." I could not speak. I just nodded. A few weeks later, Karen drove down to my college campus on her lunch break. She brought a thermos of tomato soup and 2 grilled cheese sandwiches. We ate in her car. She did not ask me anything difficult. She told me about her second-grade class and a kid named Otis who had stolen all the silver glitter. I laughed for the first time in months. When I got out of the car, she said, "Anytime you want soup, you call me. And don't text. Your mother reads texts." I did not understand then why she had said that. In the fall of 2023, my sister Bridget came over for Sunday dinner and asked my mother, straight at the table, in front of me, when Lottie was going to get her trust statements. My mother did not answer. Bridget asked again. My mother put down her fork and said very quietly, "Bridget, if you bring that up again, you will not be coming back to this house." Bridget came back twice more after that. Then she stopped. She still called me on Tuesdays. We talked about her hospital and her 2 kids and the weather. We never talked about money. I assumed she had given up. I assumed she had been told to leave it alone, the way I had been told to leave everything alone. In May 2024, I turned 21. My mother made meatloaf. There was no envelope at my plate, no conversation about what should have happened to my trust on that birthday. I did not know. I had never been told because no one talks about trust to the people they are about to steal from. That on the day a custodial trust beneficiary turns 21 in our state, the trustee is legally required to terminate the trust and turn over every dollar. What my mother had received in the mail 1 week before my birthday, what she had taken out of her purse at the kitchen counter, what she had filed quietly inside the top drawer of her writing desk, was a letter from First Mercantile Trust. Termination scheduled. Final disbursement required. Please contact us to coordinate transfer. She did not contact them. She filed the letter. She filed the next one, and the next one. 6 letters in 14 months. She told herself, I think, that she had time, that a quiet glitch in some big bank would let her hold on a little longer, that she was still, somehow, keeping me safe. In June of 2025, Maureen retired from her practice. The clinic she'd built, the wooden floor room I'd walked across for 17 years, was sold to a younger therapist. Maureen sent me a card with that line on the back. Coffee, Saturday, July 12th. Just you and me. And on a wet Saturday morning at Brewman's Coffee, she set down a manila folder, folded her hands, and waited. If you are sitting with this story, if any part of it is making your stomach turn because someone in your own life has done this to you, in the name of love, in the name of safety, I want you to leave one word in the comments below. Just one. The name of the thing they took. Money, college, friends, your body, your time, whatever it was. Don't explain, just name it. I read every one. Now let me tell you what Maureen had in that folder. She did not open it right away. She let me finish my coffee. She asked me, the way she had asked at every appointment for 17 years, how my ankles felt. I told her, bad weather, aching, but I'd been walking the campus parking lot fine. She nodded. Then she said, Lottie, when you turned 21, in May of last year, you became, by law, the only person who can decide what happens to the trust your mother has been managing. The trust was supposed to close. Every dollar in it was supposed to move into your name. Has any of that happened? I told her no. She nodded again, slowly, like she had known the answer before she asked. Has your mother ever shown you a balance on any account in your whole life? I told her no. She picked up the folder and slid it across to me. Inside were printouts she had pulled from public records and from a free legal clinic that had agreed to take my case if I wanted it. There was a list of trustee responsibilities. There was a one-page explanation of how a custodial trust terminates at age 21 in our state. There was the address of First Mercantile Trust, the bank that legally held the money, and the name of the trust officer who was supposed to be in contact with my mother. And there was a thin business card from a woman named Hayes, paralegal, community elder, and disability legal clinic. I stared at the folder. I had a very strange thought sitting in that booth. I thought about my 8th birthday cake. I thought about the laptop on the driveway. I thought about Mrs. Beach's sandwich in the library at 14. I thought about my father's face the night he handed me a computer that my mother would break 2 hours later. I thought about all of the times my mother had said, "Sweetie, you can't manage money," and how every single one of them had landed the same way. Soft, almost loving. The kind of sentence that gets inside your spine and stays there. I looked at Maureen. I said, "Why now?" Maureen took a long breath. "Because last week," she said, "I was finally licensed as a volunteer at the legal clinic. Until last week, I was your physical therapist. I had clinical confidentiality. I had no standing to act on anything outside your body. The minute I retired and signed those clinic papers, I had standing. And the second I did, I called you." She paused. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was very steady. "Lottie, I have watched your mother bring you to my clinic for 17 years. I have heard the way she talks to you. I have heard her tell my receptionist that you can't be trusted with car keys, with your own appointment times, with anyone's phone number. I have not slept well in 17 years. I should have told you sooner. I'm telling you now. I told myself your mother was difficult, not dangerous. I told myself I was only seeing the edges of it. I told myself a lot of things because telling the truth would have meant admitting I had watched too long. I was wrong. I should have handed you a phone number the day you turned 18. I did not cry. I closed the folder. I took the business card and I put it in my wallet. I asked her if I could borrow a pen. She gave me one. On the back of the folder, in pencil, I wrote down 4 words in the same handwriting I'd used to take notes on community college philosophy, trust, accounting, redirect, apartment. I drove home. I did not say a word to my mother at dinner. After she went upstairs, I walked into her office. I knelt down. I opened the top drawer of her writing desk. I lifted a manila envelope from inside. There were 6 letters. First Mercantile Trust. The first one was dated April 22nd, 2024. 2 weeks before my 21st birthday. Termination scheduled. Final disbursement required. Please contact us to coordinate transfer. The most recent one was dated April 12th, 2025. Final attempt to contact trustee. Failure to respond will result in court referral. She had never opened them. I folded each letter back exactly the way it had come. I put the envelope back exactly where I'd found it. I closed the drawer. I stood up in her office. I looked at the picture of me on her wall, 5 years old, before I'd really learned to hide my limp. And I felt something I had not felt in 22 years. I felt clean. The next Wednesday, Maureen and I drove together to the Community Elder and Disability Legal Clinic. The clinic was upstairs from a dry cleaner. 2 desks, a window unit air conditioner that rattled. The paralegal, Hayes, looked about 30. Cropped hair, cardigan, a coffee mug that said Aunt of the Year. She did not blink when Maureen explained who I was. She did not blink when I told her in 5 flat sentences what my mother had been doing for 22 years. She wrote everything down. She asked one question gently. Lottie, do you want to recover the past money or do you want to stop the future bleed? I thought about that for a long time. I said, I want to stop the future bleed. The past is gone. I want to walk away with my name in my own life. She nodded. She wrote in pen at the top of her notepad, Stop the bleed. Then she walked me through it. There are 3 pieces, she said. 1. We filed a petition with the probate court to remove your mother as trustee. We name a successor trustee, the Trust Department of First Mercantile Trust, the same bank that has been trying to reach your mother for 14 months. They will accept. They have a fiduciary duty. We do not need to take your mother to court for theft. We do not need a criminal case. We do not need to even tell her until the order is issued. 2. The new trustee will request a complete accounting of every dollar your mother spent from the trust principal since she became trustee. That accounting is mandatory. Your mother will have 30 days to produce records. If she cannot produce justification for any expenditure, the new trustee will demand repayment. That repayment will be a civil matter, usually a slow plan over many years. No jail, just paperwork. 3. Your structured settlement annuity, the $4,200 a month, comes from a separate insurance issuer. You are the named annuitant. You can update your banking information at any time. We will redirect every future payment into a new sole account in your name only, at a different institution. Your mother can never touch another monthly payment again. I asked, how long? Hayes said, if we file next week, the trustee removal will be granted by mid-August. The accounting comes in September. The redirect we can do in 72 hours. I said, do it. Hayes nodded. Then she leaned forward. Listen, Lottie, she said. I have to tell you the hardest part. Your mother is going to find out, eventually. The trust officer at First Mercantile will copy her on the order. She'll get a letter. She might get many letters. She will probably not believe what they say. Some parents in her position fold quickly. Some parents in her position pretend the letters are spam. I have seen both. Whatever she does, you have the right to walk into any branch of your new bank any day and pull a statement. The minute you turn 21, which was 14 months ago, Your life stopped being something anyone could legally manage for you, including her, including me, including anyone. I took the papers home. I read them all. A week later, I went back. I signed the petition. Karen drove me both ways. She did not ask what the papers were. She only said on the drive in that whatever I was choosing to do, she'd be there at the end of it. While we waited for the court date, I had to learn how to read a bank statement for the first time in my life. The original settlement file, 312 pages, in a manila envelope my mother had kept in her bedroom closet since 2004, was the first place I could see the real number in writing. I waited until my mother was at her hairdresser appointment on a Thursday afternoon. I went into her closet. I found the envelope on the second shelf under a folded comforter. I sat on the floor of her bedroom and I read the cover sheet. Total settlement, $2,200,000. Structured component, $700,000. Monthly payment, $4,200. Trust component, $1,500,000. Trustee until age 21. I put the envelope back exactly where it had been. I went downstairs. I made myself a sandwich. I ate it at the kitchen island, in the exact spot where I had eaten $5 sandwiches my entire life. And I thought, quietly, calmly, about how a number that big had been sitting on a shelf above my mother's winter sweaters for as long as I had been alive. I did not feel rage. I felt something stranger than rage. I felt arithmetic. That night, I lay in bed with the light off, and I did not sleep. I lay there for a long time, and I counted things. Not money. I counted the number of times my mother had said the word sweetie. I counted the number of times I had handed over a kiss for a kiss, money for permission, silence for safety. I counted the number of mornings I had walked from the far parking lot in the cold because she wanted me to be grateful. I stopped counting at 300 and lost the rest. The next morning, I called Bridget at 6 a.m. before her shift. She picked up on the second ring. I told her, in a voice I did not recognize, that I had seen the original number, 2.2. I had seen it in writing. Bridget was quiet for a long minute, and then she said, very softly, I knew it was around there. I never saw the document. She had told me once, when I was 23, that there was a settlement. She said it was a few $100,000. I assumed she was lying. I just didn't know by how much. I asked Bridget, did you ever try to look? She said twice. The first time Mom caught me in the office. The second time she changed the lock on the desk drawer. The third time would have been the last time, so I stopped. I told her I am going to walk through this all the way. She said, I know. I'll be on the courthouse steps. You won't see me. Until you come out, then you'll see me. Then you'll know. Karen drove me to the clinic on the third Wednesday for what Hayes called the preparation visit. Hayes sat me down with a printout of every step I would take in the next 90 days. She read each line out loud. She made me sign next to each one. She told me, Lottie, you do not have to memorize this. You only have to know that nothing on this page can happen without your signature. That is what 21 means. On the way home, Karen pulled into a diner. She ordered me a grilled cheese. She ordered herself a small house salad. When the food came, she did not eat. She watched me eat the first 3 bites. Then she said only once, very softly, before she lifted her own fork, "I have been waiting 4 years for you to find your way to a place I could not take you. I am very proud of you." I cried into the grilled cheese. The court hearing was on August 19th, a Tuesday, 11 a.m. Probate court, room 2. My mother had been served the notice on July 28th by certified mail. She had signed for it on the front porch. I had been standing in the kitchen when she walked in with the green slip. She glanced at the envelope, snorted, and said, "Mortgage company again. They will not give up." She had put the envelope on the counter. She had never opened it. When I left the house that morning for the hearing, the unopened envelope was still on the kitchen counter, next to her car keys. Hayes walked me into the courthouse. The hearing took 11 minutes. The judge was an older man with a white beard. He asked me one question. He asked if I was the named beneficiary of the trust at issue, and if I was over 21. I said yes to both. He asked Hayes if the trustee, my mother, had received notice. Hayes said yes, by certified mail, signed receipt, dated July 28th. The judge looked at the empty chair on the other side of the room and said, very calmly, "The trustee has declined to appear. The trust shall be transferred to First Mercantile Trust as successor trustee, effective immediately. The successor trustee shall conduct a full accounting and report back to this court within 45 days. He signed an order. He went on to the next case. We walked outside. The August sun was very bright. Bridget was sitting on the courthouse steps. I had not asked her to come. She had driven 90 minutes that morning, called into her shift, and was wearing scrubs under a denim jacket. She stood up when she saw me. She crossed the steps. She hugged me without saying anything for a long minute. Then she let go, and she said, "I tried, Lottie. I tried twice, and I lost twice. I should have tried a third time. I'm sorry." I said, "You didn't lose. You bought me time. I know the kind of person Mom is now because of what you tried." Bridget cried. We sat down on the steps, and we ate vending machine peanut butter crackers because neither of us had eaten breakfast. She told me very quietly about the night 3 years ago when she had cornered our mother in the kitchen after a Sunday dinner. She had read about custodial trusts in a magazine in the hospital break room. She had come prepared. She had asked our mother where the statements went. Our mother had told her sweetly to mind her own house. Bridget had pushed once, twice. Our mother had picked up her wine glass, swirled it, and said, "Bridget, you are not Lottie's mother. You are not my financial advisor. You are barely my daughter on a good day. If you ever bring this up again, you will not be welcome in this house. And I will tell your husband what you did at 16. Bridget had not stayed for dessert. I asked her what she had done at 16. She laughed, very tired. She said, nothing real. She just liked the threat. That was how she worked. She remembered every weak moment everyone in her life had ever had, and she kept them like coupons. I told her I was sorry I had not known. Bridget shook her head. She said, "You weren't supposed to know. You were the one she was protecting the lie around. You were the whole point." Before she got into her car to drive back, she said, "When you are ready to do whatever it is you are going to do, whatever, you tell me. I will be there, front row. I told her I would. I did not tell my father yet. I could not yet. He has the kind of heart that takes hard news in slow, deep breaths, and I needed him to have his slow, deep breaths some other week, not the week the order came down. I went home that afternoon. The unopened envelope was still on the kitchen counter. My mother was vacuuming the living room. She turned off the vacuum when I walked in. She asked me where I had been. I said the library. She nodded. She handed me $5 from her purse and a kiss on the forehead. Don't spend it all at once, sweetie. The successor trustee at First Mercantile Trust was a man named Mr. Kovac. 40s, gray sweater, calm voice. He called me on the morning of September 5th. Lottie, he said, I have finished accounting. I need you to sit down before I read this to you. Are you somewhere private? I was in my car in the credit union parking lot. I had just walked out of the orientation for my first real job. Assistant in the member services office, $15 an hour, 3 days a week. No permission slip required. I told him I was private. I closed my eyes. He read it to me. Caribbean cruise, March 2022, $14,200. Kitchen renovation, completed July 2022, $86,500. Italian leather furniture set, October 2022, $11,800. Used Ford Explorer, down payment and ongoing payments, June 2023, forward, $74,000. 3-year spa membership full prepaid, January 2023, $9,000. There was more. Dozens of smaller items. A new washer and dryer. A trip to Nashville. A weekend at a resort in Sedona. A pair of diamond stud earrings from a jeweler in the next town. The total was $380,000. Mr. Kovac finished. He let the line sit silent. Then he said, Lottie, I am required by law to demand repayment in full. I've already sent your mother a notice. I expect she will not respond. We will move to a civil judgment in approximately 6 weeks. She will be on a payment plan for many years. There will be no criminal charges unless you ask for them. Do you want me to refer this to the district attorney's office? I sat in my car for a long minute. I said, no. I just want my name in my own life. Mr. Kovac said, done. The remaining balance of the trust, $1,120,000, has been wire transferred this morning into your new sole account at Riverbend Credit Union. The structured settlement annuity has been redirected as of yesterday. Your next payment of $4,200 will hit your new account on the 15th. Your mother no longer has access to either. I thanked him. I sat in my car. I started my car. I drove home for dinner. That night, my mother received the second certified letter from Mr. Kovac. She signed for it on the porch. She put it on the kitchen counter next to the first unopened envelope. She did not open it. I came inside. She had made spaghetti. She kissed me on the forehead. Drive carefully, sweetie. Don't spend it all at once. I went up to my room. I sat at my desk. I opened my laptop. A refurbished one I had bought with my first $80 of my own money, paid for in cash at a used electronics shop, owned by no one but me. and I logged into my new Riverbend Credit Union account. $1,125,200. I closed the laptop. I went downstairs and helped my mother dry the dishes. October 15th was a Wednesday. My first real paycheck, $1,500 for 2 weeks of member services work, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., taxes already taken out, arrived as a physical check. The credit union still gave you a paper check the first time. They handed it to me in a small envelope at the end of my Wednesday shift. I drove home. I walked in the front door. My mother was waiting in the kitchen. She had set out a plate of cookies, store-bought, from the brand she only bought when she wanted something. She turned the dimmer up on the kitchen light. "Sweetie, welcome home, working girl. Let me see it." I handed her the envelope. She opened it. She looked at the check. She looked at me. She smiled the smile I had seen my whole life, the smile that always came right before the words, "Sweetie, you can't manage money. You can't manage money, sweetie," she said. "Look at the hand the doctor broke. Mama's going to deposit this for you. I'll set you up at $5 a day, same as always. We don't change what works. You'll thank me when you're 40. She took the check. I did not argue. I did not cry. I did not tell her my new bank card was already in my pocket, or that her name had been off my accounts for 11 weeks, or that the joint account she planned to deposit my check into still existed only because I had left it open as bait. The next morning, the check cleared. $1,500 hit the joint account. By noon, my mother had moved $1,490 of it into her own personal checking. She handed me $10 at the kitchen counter and said, 2 days' worth. You earned a bonus, sweetie. She winked. I took the $10, I put it in my pocket, I went to work. That night, at Karen's house, my father had taken a long shift at the warehouse. I sat at her kitchen table with Maureen, and we drew up the plan for Sunday dinner. Karen had been thinking about it for weeks. We picked the third Sunday in December, early enough not to collide with Christmas, late enough that my mother would not see it coming. Karen would invite everyone in her own voice, a small early Christmas family dinner at Mom's house, because everyone goes to Mom's house on Sundays, including the people who don't want to. My mother could not refuse a Sunday dinner she was already hosting. She would have nowhere to walk away to. Bridget said yes immediately. She blocked the day. She told her supervisor she had a family emergency 3 weeks in advance, the way only nurses can. Karen invited Maureen openly, not as a witness. As the woman who had been my physical therapist for 17 years and was now a friend. My mother could not say no to Maureen at a dinner without sounding cruel. She would seat her at the far end. She would not even register her as a threat. My grandmother, Iona, 77, my mother's mother, would come because Iona always came when Karen called. Iona did not love my mother very much. Iona had told me once when I was 13 that Rhonda had always been the difficult one. I had not understood then. I understood now. My father, Wendell, was the last person I had to tell, and I had to tell him myself. I drove out to his place on a Saturday afternoon. Karen made coffee and went to the grocery store on purpose so we could be alone in the living room. I sat on the brown leather sofa across from him. He took off his work boots. I told him everything. 2.2 million, $5 a day. The laptop on the driveway, the unopened letters, the accounting, the number on the screen, the redirect, the dinner. My father did not interrupt me. Not once. He sat very still, his hands folded in his lap. When I finished, he did not say anything for a long time. Maybe 20 minutes. He sat in his living room and he looked at the floor and he breathed. Then he stood up. He walked to the kitchen. He poured a glass of water. He drank it slowly. He came back. He sat down. He looked at me. He said, "I'll be there." He said, "I'm sorry I wasn't there sooner." He said, "Tell me where to stand." I told him. The week of the dinner, I slept almost nothing. I rehearsed nothing. That was Maureen's advice. She had told me at Brewman's Coffee weeks earlier that the only way to handle this kind of conversation was to let my mother run the room until she ran herself into the wall. "Don't prepare lines, Lottie," she had said. "Prepare a face. Prepare a posture. Prepare the envelope. Let her bring everything else." On Saturday night, I sat at my new credit union table at Karen's house. Karen had ordered me a small, accessible apartment table as a housewarming gift, and I had not moved in yet, so it lived in her dining room. And I assembled the envelope. Page 1. The court order, signed and dated August 19th, removing my mother as trustee. Page 2. The accounting summary from Mr. Kovac. $380,000, line by line, with my mother's name at the top. Page 3. My Riverbend Credit Union statement for the most recent cycle. Balance, $1,140,800. Page 4. The redirect confirmation from the structured settlement issuer, showing 4 monthly payments of $4,200 each in my new account. I sealed the envelope. I taped it shut. I wrote one word in pencil on the front, in handwriting my mother would recognize. "Sweetie." The third Sunday in December came up cold and bright. The Sunday I had been waiting for since I was 8 years old, and never even knew it. My mother roasted a chicken. She made mashed potatoes with too much butter. She set the dining room table with the good plates, the cream ones with the gold band, and she lit the 2 pillar candles in the silver holders. She set 7 place cards. Mom at the head, me at her right, Wendell next to me, Karen next to him, Bridget across, Iona at the other head, Maureen in the corner between Iona and Bridget. Bridget arrived first with a casserole and a face I had not seen since the courthouse steps. Iona came at 4 sharp, smelling of peppermint, leaning hard on her cane. My mother kissed her cheek. Iona did not kiss back. Wendell and Karen arrived together 15 minutes late on purpose. My mother frowned. She let it pass. She had Maureen coming, and she would not make a scene with a guest in the doorway. Maureen arrived last. She was wearing a navy sweater. She brought a small plant in a clay pot. She handed it to my mother. My mother thanked her brightly. Maureen sat down at her corner seat and folded her hands in her lap, the way she had folded them at Brewman's Coffee on a Saturday in July. Dinner started. My mother carved the chicken. She poured wine for the adults and ginger ale for me, even though I was 22 and could legally have a glass of wine. And she said, looking around the table, I just want to say how lucky I am tonight to have all of you, to have my family, to have my Lottie working her first real job. She has been such a hard worker. I am so proud. She paused. She smiled. And I want you to know, she said, that I have been managing her settlement so cleanly her whole life. There is still plenty left. She is set. She does not have to worry about a thing. That is what mothers do. Karen looked at me. Bridget looked at her plate. Iona looked at the candles. I reached under the table. I lifted the envelope from my knee. I placed it on the cream plate in front of me. I slid it across the table. I said, "Mom, open this. 8 steps. Fun." The lie. She was still smiling. "Of course, sweetie. What is this? Did you write me a Christmas card?" 2. The first piece of evidence. She unsealed the envelope. She lifted out page 1, the court order. She read 3 lines. The smile stayed for a second. Then it slipped. "Lottie, what is this? Where did you get this?" 3. The denial. Loud. Sharper than the wine glasses. "This is forged. Somebody forged this. Wendell, did you forge this? Did Karen put you up to this? This is not real." 4. The stronger evidence. She lifted out page 2, the accounting. She saw her own name at the top. She saw $14,200 next to the word cruise. She saw $86,500 next to the word kitchen. She saw the spa membership. She saw the earrings. Her hands began to shake. Her mouth worked. She said very quietly, "This was for Lottie. All of this was for Lottie." 5. The final reveal. She lifted out page 3. The statement. $1,140,800 with my name across the top in big bank lettering. Lottie May, sole account holder. She lifted out page 4. The 4 redirected payments. October, November, December's. Already in. She stopped lifting. 6. The silence. Iona set down her fork. She did not pick it back up. The candles did the only sound in the room. A small, polite crackle, like ice cubes. My father shifted his weight in his chair very slowly, the way a person shifts when they have decided where they are about to stand. 7. The loss of control. My mother dropped the pages. She grabbed her purse, the leather one she had bought with the trust money, and she scrabbled inside it. She came out with my debit card. The blue one. The card she had been carrying for 11 weeks. She slammed it onto the table. "This," she said, voice cracked open. "This is the card. This is mine. I have been depositing your paychecks for you. This is the card. Lottie, sweetie, look at me. This is the card." I looked at her. I kept my hands folded in my lap. I said very quietly, "Mom, that card has been deactivated since September 14th. The joint account stayed open only long enough for the paycheck you took from me to clear. I closed it the next morning. The card you've been carrying hasn't worked for months. Every $5 you handed me in October and November came out of your own purse. You have been giving me your own grocery money and calling it mine." The room did not move. Then my mother let go of the card. She did not throw it. She did not slap it down again. She just let it go. The way you let go of something that has stopped being yours. It hit the cream plate with a small, dull tap and slid 2 inches, and it stopped face up between the gravy boat and the rolls. The room got very quiet for a very long second. In that second, I could hear the candle wicks. I could hear my own breath. I could hear my mother's breath, fast and shallow, the way a child breathes after they have run too far in the cold. I could hear Karen's chair stop creaking. I could hear my father's hand on the back of my chair, very still. My mother looked at the card on the plate, then she looked at me. Then she looked at my new credit union statement on the table. Then she looked at the empty space at her left elbow, where she had set down her wine glass without finishing it. She did not pick it up. Her hand opened and closed twice. She had nowhere to put her hand. She had nothing left to take. She tried one more time the smile. "Sweetie," she said, "we can fix this." I did not answer. Karen answered from across the table in the softest voice I have ever heard her use. "Rhonda, there is nothing here to fix. There is only what was done. You are the one who has to sit inside that now, not Lottie, not me. You." My mother turned her head toward Karen. Slowly. She had spent 14 years pretending Karen did not exist. She had not looked Karen in the eye since the day my father married her. She looked now. Her chin shook once. She looked away. 8. The consequences. My grandmother Iona slammed her open palm down on the table. The candle holders jumped. The water glasses jumped. My mother flinched. "Rhonda," Iona said. Just her name. The way Maureen had said mine on a Saturday morning in July. Iona did not say anything else for a long moment. Then she said, "I raised you better than that. I have known. I have known for a long time. I did not act because I am old and I am tired and I am a coward and I will carry that until I die. But I raised you better than that." My father stood up. He walked around the table. He did not raise his voice. He did not look at my mother. He came to my chair. He put one large warehouse hand on my shoulder. He squeezed once. He stood behind me. His weight settled. The way you stand when you are not leaving. Karen reached across and took my other hand under the table. Bridget was crying. She did not try to stop. She kept looking at me with the look of someone who had been carrying a thing for years and had just been allowed to set it down. Maureen sat very still at her corner seat. She waited a long moment. Then she said, "Lottie." I looked at her. "Lottie," she said, "I have been your physical therapist for 17 years. I should have said something sooner. I am sorry I didn't. I had to wait for the standing to do it right. I wish that had not taken as long as it did." I said the only sentence I had practiced. I said, "You spoke when you could. That counted. If you have made it this far, and your hands are shaking even a little, take one breath with me. The hardest part of a moment like this is not the reveal. It is what you decide to do with the silence that comes after it. I am not asking you to forgive anyone in your own life. I am asking you to give yourself permission to walk out of any room where your name is on someone else's paperwork. That permission is the only thing in this whole story that I made for myself. Everything else was just paper." In the weeks that followed, I moved into a small, accessible apartment 3 blocks from Riverbend Credit Union. Studio, 1 bedroom, a second-floor unit with an elevator and a south-facing window. Karen bought me a microwave at a Saturday yard sale and carried it up the stairs herself because she said elevators were not allowed to take her credit for the day's work. Bridget came down on a Sunday in late January with both her boys and a casserole dish I had eaten from as a child. She filled my fridge. She did not stay long. She kissed me on the cheek and told me to call her on Tuesdays. I told her I would. My father came every Saturday with pizza. We ate at my small new kitchen table. We talked about nothing important, sometimes about the warehouse, sometimes about his second graders, secondhand from Karen. Once, late in February, he told me he was sorry he had not seen what was happening, and I told him that nobody had been allowed to see, and that I was glad he was sitting at my table now. He cried, a little. He did not try to hide it. I did not try to stop him. My mother received the civil judgment from the court in early February. $380,000, a payment plan over 15 years. She would not lose her house. She would not go to jail. She would carry that paperwork until she was 67. She called me every night for the first 11 days. I did not pick up. She called me every Sunday for the next month. I did not pick up. By March, the calls had thinned to once every other week. By April, they had stopped. Iona stopped staying at my mother's house. On weekends, she stayed at Karen and Wendell's instead. She brought peppermints. She told me, in a quiet moment in their kitchen one Saturday morning, that her own mother had done something similar to her. Not with money, with shame. She told me it had taken her until she was 60 to stop apologizing for being alive. She told me she did not want me to wait that long. I told her I wouldn't. She squeezed my hand once and went back to her tea. Maureen came every other Saturday for tea. She brought lemon scones. She asked me how my ankles felt. I told her, most days fine. We did not talk about my mother. We talked about her grandchildren and the new physical therapist who had bought her practice and was already, predictably, mismanaging the front desk. She made me laugh. The credit union promoted me in March. Full-time, member services lead. The branch manager, a woman named Jolene, who had known Maureen since the 90s and who had hired me. I later learned because Maureen had walked into the lobby on a Tuesday in August and told her that a girl named Lottie was going to come in next week, and Jolene was going to like her, pulled me into her office on the day of the promotion and said, only this, Lottie, you are the second person in this branch's history that Maureen has ever vouched for in person. I trust her taste. Welcome to a real job. I started taking a personal finance class on Tuesday nights at the community college. I sat in the front row. I took notes. I understood by week 4 every line on every statement in my own life. By week 8, I helped a classmate, a woman in her 50s, who had just gotten divorced and had never opened her own account, figure out how to set up automatic transfers. She thanked me with a small lemon scone she had made in her own kitchen. I ate it at the front desk at Riverbend the next morning, and I thought about Maureen and I. My mother left one gift on my doorstep in late April, a potted hydrangea. No card. I let it sit there for 3 days. On the fourth day, I picked it up and walked it across the hall and gave it to my elderly neighbor who had been asking me, every time we crossed in the hallway, what kind of plant I thought would survive on her north-facing balcony. She kissed me on the cheek. I came back into my apartment and washed my hands and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. And I did not feel guilty. I felt like a person whose porch was hers. I called Bridget that night. I told her about the hydrangea. She laughed, a long, tired laugh. She said that is exactly her. She does not knock. She leaves a plant. She wants credit without conversation. Bridget said her boys were asking when Aunt Lottie was coming up to see them. I told her the first Saturday in May. She said, "Good." She said, "The boys are going to want to walk to the creek with you." I told her I would bring my cane and my walking shoes. I went up the first Saturday in May. I walked to the creek. I walked slowly. The boys ran ahead. Bridget walked beside me. We did not talk about our mother. We talked about the boys and the season and the cold water. On the way back, I sat down on a fallen tree for 10 minutes to rest my ankle, and Bridget sat next to me, and we watched the boys throw sticks into a slow current, and neither of us cried, and neither of us needed to. I kept the cane. I stopped hiding it. On bad days, I walk slower. On good days, I walk straight. Either way, I walk where I want, with money my mother no longer touches.